freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, one and all, wherever you may be. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. I'm your host, Mark Passio. This show is broadcast live every Tuesday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm pleased to announce tonight that we are going to have a new format this evening for the show. And this is a very good thing because the second hour of What on Earth is Happening will now be picked up by Oracle Broadcasting. And the network is oraclebroadcasting.com. If you'd like to visit that site online, check out all of their great hosts. This came about because the Intel Hub radio show was picked up for Oracle Broadcasting. They're now doing a show 2 hours every night from 8 to 10 on the Oracle Broadcasting Network, and I'm going to act in the capacity of a contributor to the Intel Hub radio show on Tuesday night for the second hour of the show. So every Tuesday night, Oracle will be picking up the second hour of this broadcast, and that's great news. What that means for the first hour is that the first hour will run commercial-free. There'll be no ads. And then we will be hearing the network ads during the second hour when we're live on Oracle. So I'll be connecting to that network at the top of the second hour, and should be pretty exciting. It should be interesting. We should probably get some new callers and listeners from that network. So it's a good thing all around. What I want to do before I jump into the topic for this evening is I have the event announcements and the call-in numbers for the show. So I'm going to give the call-in number first. You can call in to 724-444-7444. Once again, the call-in number, 724-444-7444, and the call ID number is 83515. Once again, the call ID for this show, which you will be prompted for after calling the call-in number, is 83515. No taboo topics here on What on Earth is Happening. There never are. At the top of the second hour, after I'm introduced by Bob Tuskin and Shepard, the hosts of the Intel radio show, the Intel Hub radio show, I'll give the Oracle call-in line, so people will also be able to call in toll-free on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. Check out the show, the IntelHubRadio.com, the website. That's the website for the new Intel Hub Radio show on Oracle Broadcasting. The IntelHubRadio.com is that website. I also want to direct everyone in advance, if they're not already listening through the TalkShoe interface on my website, to go up to whatonearthishappening.com and click the radio listen page. And on that page, you will see images for tonight's show, March 1st, 2011. There you'll find a host of images that you can click on that will come up in a slideshow type format, and you'll be able to follow along with the symbolism that we're going to talk about on the show tonight. Tonight's show is going to be an ongoing segment in our series on the usage of symbolism as a methodology of mind control, and it's also kind of an initiation into occult symbolism in general. We've been doing this for several weeks, and this will continue for many more weeks to come because I'm going to continue to go over this symbolism in depth. I have a really ambitious list of symbols to go through tonight. We're going to be looking at the remainder of pine cone symbolism, which we left off on last week, and then we'll be looking at goddess symbolism for the remainder of the show. This type of symbolism may take a couple of weeks to get through. We'll see how it goes. So with that having been said, let's get into the event announcements. I only have two again this week. First of all, the Free Your Mind Conference, Racing Toward Us. It'll be here in just over a month, and everything is on track for it and looking good. A lot of good response. All the speakers are a go to be part of this great event. So, Free Your Mind, a conference on consciousness, mind control, and the occult. Saturday, April 9th and Sunday, April 10th, 2011 at Ruba Hall, 414 Green Street in Philadelphia, PA. The doors open at 9 a.m. Speakers begin at 10 a.m. each day. Admission price only $20 per day if you get your tickets in advance, $30 per day at the door. There are still plenty of tickets left. People have been asking about that. Plenty of tickets still available. You could order them in advance. There's still time to get them through the mail that way, or you could. I could also do, if you were to order them in advance through mail, through the website, I could also keep them at the door. We have a will call at the door as well. But if you decide to come the day of, it's $30 at the door, and there are still plenty of tickets available. Free Your Mind is a unique two-day conference scheduled for April 9th and 10th in Philadelphia, PA, featuring multiple speakers and diverse educational materials for the purpose of raising public awareness of the critically important topics of mass mind control techniques, the covert and subversive influences upon consciousness and behavior, trauma-based and ritualized abuse, and the practical, mental, and emotional healing methodologies available for those affected by these devices. The featured speakers, Aaron McCollum, Alfred Weber, Andrew Bastiago, Bob Tuskin, Farah Yurdozu, Freeman Fly, Jan Irvin, John Nicholson, Joseph Mara, Larkin Rose, Laura Eisenhower, Mark Matika, Mark Passio, Michael Kelly, Paul Marco, and Suzanne Taylor. For more information on the Free Your Mind Conference, check out the conference website at www.freeyourmindconference.com and get your tickets today. Second event announcement, and the final one, is FedStock 2, the official End the Fed rally for the city of Philadelphia. Will be taking place in Philadelphia on April 23rd, 2011. The theme for this event is Turn Your Back on the Fed and Reduce Your Federal Reserve Note Footprint. This event is organized by Truth, Freedom, Prosperity. It will be taking place on April 23rd, 2011. Lots of bands are going to play at this. We'll have I think they're going to have an indoor location this year. I'm not exactly certain about that, but last year they had a concert out on Independence Mall Park lawn at the Visitor Center. So I'm not sure if that's what they're planning on doing again or if it's going to be indoors somewhere after some sort of a march. The details are still really to be announced. But for more information on this, you could check out two websites. You can go to www.phillyandthefed.com. That's PHILLYandthefed.com. Or you could visit www.truthfreedomprosperity.org. Truthfreedomprosperity.org, the great organizers of FedStock 2 and the End the Fed rallies here in Philadelphia. Those are the event announcements I have for today. So let's get right into our topic, which is subversive symbolism and symbolism used as a methodology of mind control. Last week we were looking at the symbolism of the pine cone. And we left the show off at the end talking about the symbolism at the Vatican of the pine cone, namely the court of the pine cone. This is, you can see these images up on the site, on the radio listen page. Pine cone symbolism is listed first. And we left off on, I believe it was image number 5 in this section, which was the close-up of the rear side of the court of the pine cone with the 2 peacocks on either side and an empty black sarcophagus at the base of the pine cone statue. These are alchemical symbols. These are mystery tradition symbols. They are symbols of spiritual awakening and the activation of the pineal gland or all-seeing eye, the third eye chakra, the ajna chakra. The empty sarcophagus represents rebirth to spiritual life and coming out of the grave of materialism and the grave of lower consciousness and physical world, all there is type thinking. Now, of course, that is what the goal of true religion should be, but these symbols are not shared openly to the public and have been kept secret down through the ages. The Vatican flaunts this spiritual symbolism openly in the light of day at the Vatican, and guaranteed you would get no answers if you pressed someone from the church to explain what alchemical and mystery tradition symbolism is doing at the supposed holy ground of the Vatican in what is called the Court of the Pine Cone. This is because these elites and religious leaders who are basically trying to hoard knowledge such as this, keep it for themselves so they could use it as a means of control over a populace that basically doesn't know any better and is being kept in the dark, doesn't really understand what this symbolism is speaking to, basically is holding it over their heads and basically flagrantly flaunting it in the light of day. And that's how a lot of this type of symbolism works. It's hidden in plain sight because they consider that the profane of humanity will not understand it anyway, so they could just put it right out there in the open for all to see, and it won't even be understood. And that is the case if we don't work to build our vocabulary in sacred symbolism and understand how it's being used in the modern world. As we've said repeatedly, this is a language. And to understand a language, we have to grasp the basic building blocks or the basic forms. In language, those are letters. In symbolism, that's very simple symbolism or archetype. And then we move on from there to form grammar, words, and then syntax, sentences, connotation. And the same is true with symbolism as we move to more complex symbolism, specifically symbolism which combines multiple simple symbols to form more complex imagery. This is often known as sigils. Sigils are complex a series of complex symbols put together, simple symbols put together to form a more complex symbol, and we'll be looking at those in coming weeks. I want to direct your attention to image number 6 now on the pine cone symbolism section on the website. We'll start there tonight and move forward from that point. This is an Egyptian relief. I believe it's in bronze, and this resides now in a museum in Italy, in an Egyptian museum in Italy. And you can see 2 entwined serpents they are basically representing DNA. They are in the double helical shape of DNA, and then they culminate at the pine cone, which is at the top of a long rod or staff, which represented Osiris and the power that Osiris, as a creator god in the Egyptian cosmology, represented. What this ultimately represents is the transformative power of spiritual awakening and its ability to actually change our makeup as a being, even down to the genetic level. And I know some people will scoff at that and claim that that is impossible, but indeed, that is one of the capabilities that lies seemingly dormant in humanity. And this staff was known as the staff or the spine of Osiris. Okay, it was what was considered the middle pillar in this form of a tree of life, which we've already seen the tree of life symbolism with its 3 different paths on it. Well, that's what you're seeing here in a different format, representing the tree of life, which is our genetic structure and is, all of the deep essence that ultimately underlies our physical form. And that culminates with the rising of this serpentine energy, which we talked about as Kundalini energy in the Vedic chakra system, and it culminates with this coming up the spinal column, or the middle pillar that's within us, and activating the pineal gland in what's known as a Kundalini awakening. I know that some people have heard about this or read about it. Some people listening may have even experienced the Kundalini experience. It's pretty unique, it's pretty rare, but it's an energy moving up the spinal column, activating in all of the chakras in the chakra system that we talked about previously on this show, and then coming up to the top of the head or the crown chakra through the pineal gland. So that's what this image represents. And again, it's connected again with awakening, with a deep level of spiritual understanding and coming online, basically, to true spiritual insight or vision, which is what the pine cone ultimately represents. In image number 7, moving forward, we see a depiction of an ancient god. And this is from the Assyrian culture, I believe. This is around the region of Sumeria, or what was known as Babylon in the ancient past. It's also close to the land known as Akkad, where the Akkadian culture lived and developed. I believe this specifically is Assyrian symbology, and this is one of their gods depicted as a flying being with huge wings. He has sort of a representation of a cone on his head. He is depicted as sort of an alien being, so to speak, a being that has capabilities that average humans do not have, the ability to fly. He is holding this pine cone in his hand. The pine cone is, there's different interpretations depending on who interprets this image. The pine cone is either being offered or it is being taken. And I guess that would be dependent upon what type of being this was and what they depicted this being as in the ancient past. So was it one of these, quote, gods with a smaller case G that was offering enlightenment, that was trying to share knowledge and awaken people's pineal glands to awaken their true spiritual insight and vision? Or was it one of the gods who was basically harvesting or attempting to degenerate the ability for someone to awaken, and in doing so keep them in control? I mean, I think that both of those scenarios are probably equally as valid, because I think there were probably advanced beings that interacted with the people of those times and geographical locations that were probably on both ends of that spectrum. And that's a much, much more complex and in-depth discussion that we don't have really time to go into here tonight. I'll just put that out on the table, and in your own research, you'll probably come across material if you decide of that nature, if you decide to look into this further, and you can come to your own conclusion based on that. But again, the pine cone symbolism goes right back into ancient human antiquity. In image number 8, it's simply a close-up of this same image. It looks to be in a little bit better contrast, so I included it there for those who may be downloading these images and looking at them on their computer. It just shows a little bit better relief and a close-up of the previous image. So let's move on to image number 9, and this is another Assyrian symbol, except now the being definitively looks alien in nature, and it looks specifically reptilian in nature. Birds are related to reptiles. They're of the same basic family of animals. And here we see what definitively looks like a hybridization of some sort between a bird and a reptile, with a large, sharp beak, again, huge wings, being symbolic of magical capabilities, and also I would suggest flight. I mean, right there pretty openly, it suggests it. We see a symbolic depiction of, again, the tree of life in the Assyrian culture on the right-hand side of this image. And then the being is, once again, with his bucket. I guess that would represent some sort of could also represent gene pool of some kind, okay? I would suggest this image of this container that he is holding in his hand, as you saw in the previous image, might represent genetics of some kind. And the pineal gland here, the pine cone, again, is either being offered or taken. So, again, two different interpretations of that symbolism there, but pretty much no question what that the symbol of the pine cone itself represents as it is being used there. So, if we look at the last two images in this section, this is one of the clearest indicators of pine cone symbolism in general being used to represent spiritual awakening and the opening of the third eye. And of course, this is used in conjunction with Buddhism and Buddhist symbolism. Here we see an image of the Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama, and of course his hairstyle, as he is depicted in many images in the Buddhist tradition, as being conically shaped and also having the swirl pattern of the pine cone on his head. Again, this is in the vicinity of the brain and the crown chakra of the chakra system. And you see there also he has the bindi there representing the third eye being awakened. And again, that's what pine cone symbolism is ultimately all about. You can see this very clearly and definitively in image number 11, the color image showing a statuette of, I believe this is the Bodhisattva of Compassion, if I'm not mistaken, who I think is named Guinan in the Buddhist tradition. If it is some other incarnation of Buddha as he is represented, then I'm not familiar with it. I believe this is what is known as the Bodhisattva of Compassion statue. And again, clearly here we have the pine cone symbolism on the head depicted on the statue of this variant of Buddha. Again, the one who awakened is what the name Buddha means, and that's what the pine cone symbolism represents, spiritual awakening, used right there in religious symbolism. That one's pretty clear because Buddhism does specifically talk about spiritual awakening and awakening to your true essence and the true nature of self. So no surprise that it's being used in that capacity. What I want to do now is shift gears and change the topic of focus to a different form of symbolism in general. Again, the pine cone symbolism was a holdover from last week. We are going to begin looking tonight into goddess symbolism and the ways that this symbolism is used. And there's basically going to be 4 different categories of goddess symbolism that we're going to look at tonight. We'll be looking at the symbolism of the illuminated torch. Again, another symbol of enlightenment and knowledge. Okay? If you look at the second section of images there on the website, you will see the first image in that section is a basic representation, a stylized representation of the illuminated torch. Now, this symbol is used by light and dark occultists, both. And it's a dual symbol because dark occultists also consider that they have light, because light in basic systems of occultism, regardless of whether they are whether they serve humanity or whether they seek to enslave humanity, always generally depict light in its capacity as knowledge. That's what when we see the flame on this illuminated torch, that's what it really represents, is the flame of knowledge, of wisdom, of understanding, okay? And light is a way shower in the darkness, okay? That's where this symbolism is derived from. A torch will show you the way when otherwise you would not be able to see, okay? So this is connected with goddess symbolism, as we will see coming up in the next several images. And the way that it's connected with goddess symbolism, to understand how ancient this goes back, this symbolism, is if we look at the goddess tradition in general, which we already have on this show many times, specifically when we looked into the tarot tradition, which is all about the goddess and her symbolism. But we also looked at it when we looked at astrotheology, because we need to understand that the goddess plays an important role in astrotheology as the bearer of the light, of the God Savior, who is the sun in astrotheological traditions. Again, the goddess figure represents the moon, or the night sky, or I should say, and the night sky. We also saw her in her variant as the galaxy, or the cloak of stars itself, the entire Milky Way galaxy. Basically, she is all of these things. She is the void of potentiality, the womb of creation. She is the cloak of night, the goddess of night herself. She is the moon, and she is the bearer of the sun at the end of the darkness of night and the beginning of the day, or the dawn. Okay, she bears the sacred child who, after he has done battle with the darkness, the god of darkness in different traditions, is then resurrected to continually restore and continue to bring life and light to the world. And again, this is the foundational basis for Christianity, as we saw in our studies of astrotheology. Image number 2 in this section shows an incarnation of this goddess from ancient times. Her name in the Sumerian culture was Semiramis. Semiramis is seen there depicted in a couple of different incarnations. The one on the right shows her holding the small child Tammuz, and this is not a depiction of Mary and Jesus, as one might think. Goddess symbolism as a protective mother is an ancient archetype. This is nested way into the human subconscious, and we see it in many different traditions throughout the ages, specifically in Sumerian or Babylonian culture, down through Egyptian cosmology, into Roman times, into the right up into the modern day, which we'll talk about how the goddess symbolism is used in our culture. Okay, so on the left there you see a rendering of the goddess holding the chalice and the cross, and she has the illuminated rays of the moon on her crown there, because she is representing the bringer of illumination, okay? The sacred feminine force, which is ultimately opening up the right brain hemisphere to the balance that is required to understand the true essence of self. And this is what spiritual awakening is all about, hence the goddess being a depiction of light in general, or awakening. Now, again, we're going to see the positive and the dark side of this symbolism on tonight's show, depending on how far we get through it. But I want to try to, in the next one, in the section that we're going to talk about goddess symbolism in relationship to the dove, the white bird, the dove. I want to highlight in that section the really esoteric nature of the goddess symbolism, and what it really represents as far as the internal qualities of consciousness, because that's critical to understand that this is not an external symbol of an actual goddess. This is about a quality of being, ultimately, is what it is about. And there are different connotations to that. Again, as I said, there's a light side and a dark side to that, and that's what I'm going to hopefully get people to understand. That symbolism is not one thing, it's dual, just like the occult is not one thing. There is a duality to it, inherent to it, because it is simply knowledge that can be used for good or ill. So if we look at image number 3 here, we'll see a classical depiction of the Statue of Liberty, which is goddess symbolism in our culture. Here you can clearly see the similarities to Semiramis in the image before, with the rays of the moon on her crown there, okay, and holding the illuminated torch representing the light bearer. She gives birth to the sun. Essentially, that's what the torch represents. So this is lunar and solar cult symbolism. This is all astrotheological symbolism. Now, this image was given by Masons, by Freemasons, from France to the United States. As thanks, I would say, as a gesture that what they were basically doing is it was a nod from French Freemasons to American Freemasons, and specifically to honor the kind of influence that America had in the French Revolution. And I don't look at the Statue of Liberty, as other researchers do, as something that is dark or negative. Okay? Now, I know some people may find that surprising, or they may be disappointed by that. I think that this is a positive sign, and I think that it represents the light side of the goddess, not the dark side of the goddess. We'll look at the dark aspects of the goddess later on, and I'll point out where I believe dark goddess symbolism is specifically in use. This, I believe, does represent the true hope of human freedom in a true capacity. That is the way I prefer to look at it, and I don't look at this as being the dark representation of the goddess, as, again, some researchers do. Where I see dark goddess symbolism is in sacrifice rituals, the goddess being slain or killed, okay? So what I would say is one of the things that you might have to watch in the future is some form of a deliberate effort to try to somehow damage or do something to a symbol like this as an attack on the essence or spirit of freedom. This would be a great place for a false flag to take place, which would nest into the human subconscious, as it did on 9/11 when they attacked other icons of America. And as we will see, they attacked the symbolic tree of life, okay, and human consciousness in general. Of course, it has to be an attack on human consciousness to wield fear into the public so that they're willing to give up their freedoms. That's what all false flag attacks are about. But in this specific example, I think this is a positive image of true human freedom that is born through knowledge, that is born through grasping knowledge, connection to the light. That's what you're seeing here. You're seeing an illuminated one connected to the light, okay, which is the true nature of spirit, okay, and she is the goddess that represents the spirit of freedom. That's what ultimately it's about. Of course, that symbolism can also be perverted like any other, but the Statue of Liberty specifically is of course a reference to Semiramis. It's a reference to Isis. Okay, it's an analog to Isis, to Mary, to Diana, and any other number, a host of goddesses down through the ages. If we look at image number 4, here we will see all of the astrotheological cults combined in this image. We will see all of the qualities of self combined in this image as well if we read deeper into it. So we have the goddess herself. She represents the moon or the lunar cult of astrotheology, as we've already discussed. She's holding and bearing, okay, giving birth to, okay, the solar symbolism of the illuminated torch, representing knowledge and connection to higher self or spirit. And the pedestal stands upon a star. Okay, so this is stellar cult symbolism. The torch representing solar symbolism, the goddess herself, lunar symbolism, and then the pedestal, stellar symbolism. Okay, because again, the night sky, that's the foundation, that's the biggest framework, the stars. Okay, we're talking about huge cosmological, groupings of stars here. Okay, that's what the universe is essentially made of, stars and star matter. Okay, Then above that, you have the night sky and the moon symbolism, representing that which finally paves the way for the bearing of the light, or the true essence, which is represented by solar symbolism, okay? Which the goddess was always said to give birth to in every ancient tradition about the goddess. Let's look at some other ways that the illuminated torch is used in modern culture. Okay, so the last few parts of this section, the goddess is depicted here in the same colors that Mary is often depicted. We see in image number 5. That's the symbology, the symbolism that is used for Columbia Pictures, the motion picture company. The goddess standing again on a pedestal of stairs, robed in white robes, blue often being the overgarment color representing the color of the sky, dark blue, okay? And there she's holding the illuminated torch in her right hand, similar to the Statue of Liberty. Another depiction of Diana or Semiramis, or Isis or Mary, okay? And specifically, let's look at the name, which we talked about briefly before. This is Columbia Pictures, okay? Columbia is named from the French derivation of this goddess's name. The dove is another symbol for the goddess, as we've already said, and we'll be looking into later tonight. The French word for dove is columbe, and it's very similar to this in other languages as well. But columbe, C-O-L-O-U-M-B-E, columbe in French. That means dove in the French language. So taking it over into English, that's where we derive the name Columbia. Okay, and we're going to see how the name Columbia is used over and over again in this tradition. And we'll look at that a little bit more when we get to the dove symbolism, but I want to just briefly mention that right now. If we look at image number 6, we see the illuminated torch on the back of a dime, okay? And also, this is specifically chosen for its reference to the number 10, okay? 10 is often used in conjunction with the illuminated torch, and there's a reason for this, and it has to do with another aspect of how the occult works. And again, people who are looking at this from a left brain perspective will be sorely disappointed and not really get much from this, but I've already given that warning before. We have to understand that the occult is all about associative thinking. It is not about linear, left-brained, logical only thinking. It is about cross associations, okay? It is about establishing relationships. That is what occult thinking is about. And again, it doesn't matter whether you think this way or not. People who are in extreme positions of power and influence think this way. That's largely how they got to the level that they were at, because they see patterns. And whether they use the knowledge to do something that's good or to basically take more and more control and subvert human freedom, again, it's all about the ability in and of itself to be able to see and do things with information and come to conclusions, accurate conclusions based on said information. And that's pattern recognition. This is what knowledge is. It's simply a means. It's not an end. Okay? As I've always said, knowledge is only the first step. Putting it into action is what we really have to do, and we have to do that in the right capacity, on the side of moral right. Clearly, dark occultists don't do that. They're, on the wrong side of the equation because they don't really have the capacity to feel. They're psychopathic in nature. And just highlighting here that the occult is symbolic thinking and it is associative thinking. And we have to try to open our minds to this and understand how it works. So one way is through associative language, or as I've called it before on this show, is green language. Now, here's an example of how occult green language or symbolic language is used in conjunction with the dime. The dime represents 10, okay, 10 cents, okay? Now, 10 is a variant of Aten, okay? Aten, the solar god of Egypt, as we talked about in the astrotheology section. Therefore, solar cult is going to use the symbolism of Aten, or the light bringer in the Egyptian culture, to represent anything associated with 10, the number 10, okay? It is also the two numbers that represent basic binary code, on, off, light, day, dark, light, okay? Day, night, okay? Good, evil. Binary or polarized forms, okay? 1, 0. Okay? The male combined with the female. The 1 being the phallic shape and the 0 being the egg shape, okay? The masculine essence and the feminine essence. 10, if you look at it on the dime, you'll see the illuminated torch. Look at a $10 bill, okay? There's the illuminated torch next to Alexander Hamilton's face, another agent of occultists in the United States during its formative years, okay? But there is the symbol of illumination, put there more likely than not by dark illuminists, okay? Talking about people who look at themselves as those who have the light, and they're in control of the monetary system. They don't have any real light. They're people who are calling themselves those who have the light. They have no such thing. Okay? People who are really, truly spiritually awake are those who have the light and who bear it into the world, not these dark occultists who are running the monetary system and putting the symbol of their so-called enlightenment on money, on fake money at that. You know, the fake one eye and illumination. Oh, here's the symbol of illumination, spiritual enlightenment, and the opening of the third eye on fake one eye or fake mon eye money. Okay, and it represents Aten, the solar essence. Okay, the solar disk in Egyptian cosmology. Again, that's wordplay. Wordplay falls just as easily into occult symbolism as do the forms. Okay, so we have to understand this as associative language, or what is known as green language in the occult. Amoco, the next logo here in image number 7, Amoco Gasoline, American Oil Company, okay, using the two colors of red and blue in their logo. We've talked about those colors before, how red is a play or an association with the left brain, blue an association with the right brain. Okay, combining those gives you green in the color spectrum of light. Of course, purple in pigment, but I'm talking about if we look at the visible spectrum of light, all the way to the left there's the reds, to the right there's the blues. Okay, when you go up toward higher frequencies, below lower frequencies of light, you get the infrared, and above the visible spectrum toward the blue range, you get ultraviolet. However, these represent the two opposing polarities, with white in the middle here, okay, representing enlightenment, and the torch is in the middle, comprised of both of them, okay, the blue being the handle and the red being the flame, all right? Also depicting that we need to open our minds through the right brain in order to give birth to the flame, okay, or the awakened self, represented by the flame of the torch. And this is all of this archetypal symbolism goes right into your subconscious mind when it's used in the capacity to advertise like this. And the people using it understand this. They know it. They totally understand how that works. And that's why they're selling you something through their gasoline logo that they know you don't have, which is spiritual enlightenment. It's a mockery, ultimately. Okay? Also selling you on the idea of freedom, which is what the torch represents, because freedom will only come through spiritual enlightenment. So they're selling you that idea. Gasoline isn't going to free you from anything. As a matter of fact, it creates more dependency and war and imperialism and all the other host of problems that go along with it, environmental degradation, you name it. Okay, so again, another example of the capacity to sell you something through symbolism that they know you're lacking in reality. Okay? And no better example of this than image number 8, the last image in this section, which is Sovereign Bank's logo. Now, Sovereign Bank here is giving you the image of the illuminated torch bathed by the rays of the sun. Okay, the sun here depicted as the light, all of the rays coming out of the torch, the symbol of spiritual illumination combined with the word sovereign or self-reign, single reign, rulership of self, rulership of the one, being an internal monarch, as we talked about in our section on natural law. Sovereignty, true rulership of self, of the kingdom of self, becoming a being that as you think, so you feel, so you act, no internal opposition between the facets of your own consciousness, and you exist in a state of true non-duality in consciousness. Okay? And they're selling you this as a bank, in imagery representing a bank. You're not going to become sovereign by putting your money in their bank. You're not going to become sovereign by interacting with this financial institution in any way. You're not going to receive the light by interacting with them, but you'll get all of those ideas subconsciously from the symbolism, and that's what it's intended to do. Again, selling you something that they know you don't have. They know 99.999% of people on this planet don't hardly ever use the word sovereignty, let alone understand what it really is or live that way. Okay? So they're selling this idea back to you through the advertising of an institutional body that has absolutely nothing to do with these concepts in reality, and that's exactly what it's designed to do. It nests all of those ideas, all of those relationships and correspondences into the subconscious mind, so then people will associate all of those things with their institution. That's what it's designed to do. Okay? So let's move right along from there. Let's go into the symbolism of the owl, okay, because we have a lot to go through tonight. And I want to get through at least half of this before we join the Oracle Broadcasting Network in the second hour. Okay? So in image number 1, we see here a very simple depiction of a predatory owl, which is one of the favorite symbols of the dark occult. And here we're getting into dark goddess symbolism. Now, let me see if I can communicate this effectively of what the owl is all about and why it's used in dark occultism. The dove, or the white bird, okay, of purity, is depicted as the light form of the goddess. Ultimately, what the goddess represents within us is care. Okay? It is the sacred feminine components of consciousness, which is care, the heart, the right brain, compassion, okay? Willingness to accept truth and understanding and to seek knowledge. That's what the right brain or the sacred feminine components of consciousness are all about. All right? That's traditionally depicted in goddess symbolism as the white dove, which we're going to look at in a little bit. I want to look at the dark side of goddess symbolism for the moment, and that's the owl. And this is basically when care has gone dark. That's what this represents. That's what the owl represents. The owl is associated and corresponds with the night or the darkness, because the owl is a predatory bird who thrives in the dark. Its eyesight, or its vision, what it is capable of seeing, is superior to those who it preys off of. Okay? Its prey cannot see it in the dark, generally, while the owl can clearly see it. It has superior night vision. The owl is also associated with wisdom, which the dark occultists, they don't have true wisdom, but they have knowledge, okay? The wise old owl, okay? See where we're going with this symbolism? Why they choose the owl? The owl is generally in different cultures depicted as a bird that is wise, that is old, that dates to antiquity. It's been around for tens of thousands of years, okay? And the dark occult is working with ancient knowledge. ancient knowledge of the human psyche and how it works. And in doing so, they are in a position to see things which the general public, who is unaware of the dynamics of the human psyche and their psychological conditions and motivations, who they do not see. The general public does not see any of these facets. So, therefore, the elite look at themselves as a predator. Predators. Okay, we talked about predators as being predators, those who are from the very ancient past, that have knowledge from antiquity about how the human psyche works. And this is what they exploit. That's what the occult is. Okay? And that's what the owl symbolically represents. A predatory animal that can see its prey in darkness, under the cover of darkness, when its prey cannot see it in the darkness. And that perfectly represents the situation that humanity is in. We can't see the dominator force that has it in its grip because our sight is not as good as them. Specifically, our sight to see the dark side, to see the human capacity for evil and how it has run amok in this world. Okay? Also, a bird flies. Okay? Now, an owl is not known for its superior flight capability, all right? But generally, birds are at a higher level. They exist way above the ground. This is also symbolic. All right? They can see a wide area. They can see things all around them. When people who exist on the ground, meaning a lower level of consciousness, can barely see in front of them. They certainly don't have the wider vision of something like an owl, or any bird for that matter. Okay, so the owl represents a higher level of knowing, okay? Not necessarily wisdom knowing, true wisdom knowing, but at least a higher level of understanding from a point of view of what's actually taking place, all right? And a predatory animal that can see its prey when its prey cannot see it, and it's also carnivorous, it's meat-eating, okay? Which means it devours its prey. Okay, it eats its prey. And that's a perfect example of what the elite of this planet really are, a perfect example of the dark occultists that are really running the show, and that's why they use it as their symbol. Here we see the owl in image number 2 is the logo of the Bohemian Club, which is what the B and C represent here. Now, Bohemian Grove is not something we talked about it a little bit when I interviewed Neo as part of the show on satanic ritual abuse, which was a divergence from our normal topics of discussion to do that special interview. And image number 2 here shows the Bohemian Club, which we talked about briefly during that show. I believe that was show number 17. This is a gathering of elite power brokers that happens yearly in California, about 70 miles north of San Francisco, at a place in a redwood grove called Bohemian Grove. Okay, and the Bohemian Club is an exclusive membership of these power brokers, and it includes many high-level dark occultists that meet here yearly to basically hash out plans for what they're going to do in the coming weeks and months. And their symbol is, of course, an owl. Again, a symbol of the dark occult and a symbol of the predatory nature of these elitists. In image number 3 here, we see the owl shown in a stone relief at the Bohemian Grove. And around it, depicting the serpentine Ouroboros symbol, but depicted as a belt with a buckle, okay? In that belt, around the owl, and the letters BC for Bohemian Club, it says the motto of the Bohemian Club, which is "Weaving spiders come not here." This is supposed to represent, weaving spiders come not here, is supposed to represent that the Bohemian Club is supposed to be a retreat, okay? And it is supposed to serve these power brokers in the capacity that they can go there and rest and relax and not deal with all of the cares that plague them as they run the world for the rest of the year, where they can just basically get away for a time. If you believe that, I have several bridges for sale. Please contact me through my site, and I could sell you one for a very good bargain. You would imagine that elite power brokers at the highest levels of finance, religion, government, and every other institution in the world, media, etc., would not, if they are getting together all in the same place, do some weaving as spiders, okay? Would not weave some webs together. If you believe that, your level of naivete is absolutely dumbfounding. And I stress the word dumb. So good luck with that if you believe that doesn't happen at the Bohemian Grove. We've already talked about what some of their mentality and mindset and showed some of their rituals and some of the images back in podcast number 17, which, by the way, all of the podcasts for the show, as always, are up on the website. They're always free. There's 48 of them up there so far. This is show number 49. WhatOnEarthIsHappening.com and click the podcast tab. Great resources and information on that page dating back to when I first started the show. So make use of that as a resource. Image number 4 shows another variant of the Bohemian Grove's symbolism with some dates of some big meetings of the Grove and its membership. Again, there with the owl and the moon behind it, again, because this is goddess symbolism. We're going to get to why this is goddess symbolism. I think I'll leave that for the second hour. We're approaching the top of the hour. I'm going to get ready in about a minute or a minute and a half to connect into Oracle Broadcasting, and then you won't hear me speaking for a little bit just to prepare you for what to expect, because Bob, Tuscan, and Shepard will be introducing the show tonight, and they'll basically be bringing me on in the first, after the first segment of the second hour. So you'll be hearing the Intel Hub radio coming up in a few minutes, and then I'll be introduced, and they'll play my intro music again, and we'll start in with the second hour of the show. Just to wrap things up, here in image number 4 in the owl section, you again see the phrase "weaving spiders come not here," and again the moon symbolism is used in conjunction with the owl, because in ancient goddess religions, specifically in Sumerian goddess worship, this owl was often a symbol for the dark incarnation of the goddess, meaning that care had basically waned, or at least true care had basically waned, and this form of predation and not ultimately caring took over the being. And again, as we see, this is a perfect symbolic analog for the elites, and they do indeed relish it, and they revel in it, as we'll see in the next section. I'm going to make the connection to Oracle Broadcasting, and sit tight. We'll pick up more about the symbolism of the owl in hour number 2. Here we go, folks.
You have reached the Oracle Broadcasting Radio Network call-in line. After the beep, please say your name and where you're calling from, and the on-air host will take your call momentarily.
Mark Passio from What on Earth is Happening.
At the influence
Actually, we'll do our regular intro thing that we did.
Okay.
any illusions in the modern-day monetary system and how it has been used to turn people into slaves is fully revealed. Purchase your 2 DVD disc copy today at powerofthepursemovie.com. Again, that's powerofthepursemovie.com.
Hold on, I got to reset this call.
Who's that caller?
I don't know. It's probably Mark.
Now, in continuing with this show, the global crime syndicate will not end. We are the driving force behind the future of humanity. Together, we are unstoppable. We are Intel soldiers, and you are listening to the Intel Hub, broadcast live from an undisclosed location somewhere inside the Region 10. Now, your host and director of the Civilian Intelligence Agency, Shipper Dan Bellick, and Bob Huskin.
And welcome back to the Intel Hub radio show. I'm Bob Tuskin.
And I'm Shepard Ambellis. Man, that was a great interview with Cassandra Anderson, Bob, on the Montana issue.
I got a huge anti-New World Order geek crush on her, man. She's got a lot of interesting information and talks about stuff that's right up my alley. When you're talking about growing a garden, when you're talking about solutions, when you're talking about Monsanto, this stuff is just stuff that I'm interested in. I don't know about you guys. Well, forget about you. I do this show because I like to interview these people. No, I'm joking. I do these shows because I hope that we can see change in the world in which we live in, and I think that these programs are absolutely necessary, especially in these serious times. As long as we have communications, the internet, and so on, I'm going to be making the best of them. I'm going to be using them until it all goes down, and I'm going to be doing everything I can, and I say this a lot. If I wasn't facing in my lifetime, for my children's children, the battles that we see today when it comes to false flag terrorism, Monsanto, you name it, I wouldn't have to do this. I don't do this for my ego or for fame.
Yeah.
I do this because out of the bottom of my heart, I feel like I need to do something. Otherwise, I would have no hair. And as you know, folks, if you've seen some of the videos I have lots of hair, and it's nice and curly, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely. So, this whole issue with the chemtrails, the aluminum-resistant seeds, the food. I mean, what a whole masterminded concoction of compilation of stuff the New World Order just mixed together, and they're just integrating. They just totally plan on dominating society with the ultimate outcome. I mean,
Was that a question?
Well, no, but I mean,
sorry.
they're just totally dominating, on things, and it's going to take, like you guys were talking about, growing your own gardens. I need to get out and do that.
Well, it's going to take a lot more than that, Shep. I mean, let's be real here, folks. If you think that growing a garden is going to bring down these sick child molesters, you got to know what's coming. It's a step. I'm not telling you not to do it. It's a definite step, but it's not.
Well, it's more like protection for yourself, so you don't have to eat their garbage. You know what I mean? You can guarantee that you're eating an heirloom product.
That's true. It's also very healthy. There's a lot of nutrition. Coming up next, folks, on the Intel Hub Radio is our good friend Mark Passio. Visit the intelhubradio.com to read his bio. He has a program that we bring to our listeners every Tuesday called What on Earth is Happening with Mark Passio. What on Earth is Happening is his website.
Yeah.
This is going to be a regular thing every second hour on Tuesday on the Intel Hub Radio show on Oracle Broadcasting. Mark will be featuring a different discussion on mind control, the occult, solutions, you name it. He's an absolute wealth of information. I look forward to hearing him every Tuesday, and you will as well. I'm really looking forward to tonight's show. He'll be talking a little bit more about astrotheology and the occult and all of the good stuff that you're used to hearing from Mark Passio. So don't go anywhere. That's coming up next. What on Earth is Happening? I'm Bob Tuskin.
And I'm Shepard Ambellis, and, we're also going to have other contributors on throughout the week. Trevino One, Scott Bug, so you guys are going to have to tune in. But don't forget to check out the Jack Blood interview. It's at the oraclebroadcasting.com archive, and it's going to be posted at the intelhub.com that I did earlier with Jack Blood on chemtrails. Some groundbreaking information. Check it out. You're listening to the Intel Hub radio show.
efforts and all are going to seize control of the population. So the tyranny is amongst us, the burden of humanity that's on our shoulders. The only way out is to expose the global crime syndicates known as the New World Order.
Mark, are you with us, buddy?
Together, we are all one.
Yes, I am, Bob.
All right, I hope the Talk Shoe audience is looking forward to your debut on Oracle Broadcasting, a much larger audience. We'll start that in just a moment here. I thank you all for bearing with us as we make the transition. And Mark Passio is a wealth of information, as I said. And Mark, you got a lot of good stuff I'm sure you got into on the first hour. I'll have to go back into the archives. That's the beauty of doing these shows and recording them. And I'll listen to that and see what you had to say. And I'm sure this hour is going to be great. I'll go ahead and be with you on the chat in case you're, I'll give you a little warning maybe that there's a break coming up while we get used to the new break schedule. And I think that about wraps it up. I look forward to seeing you in about a month. It's coming up so fast, man.
That free your mind, yep. Bob, thanks so much for all your help, man.
Not a problem, dude. My pleasure. What was going on wasn't going on. I wouldn't have to do this. But since it is, we got to step up to the plate, as you say. That it's not enough just to learn about this stuff. There comes a time when you have to get out there and talk about it. And that's what the third part of the Trivium's all about. And we brought that up in great depth on the show I did recently on the Trivium. Check that out. The Trivium show that I did on my last official episode of Truth Be Told Radio. It's sad, but hey, it's new beginnings, bigger audience. It should be a lot of fun, and I think you guys are going to like the Oracle Broadcasting listening family. All right, so stand by. We got another 30 seconds here for commercials, and we'll get to what on earth is happening with Mark Passio, now teaming up with the Intel Hub Radio Show every Tuesday for the second hour on Oracle Broadcasting.
Amanita muscaria, San Pedro cactus, Salvia divinorum, High kratom, and much, much more. So order now through our website, truthfrequencyradio.com, by clicking on the banner. Your order will be shipped securely, and your information is always kept safe and confidential. And by ordering through truthfrequencyradio.com, not only will you get the best customer service on the planet, but you'll also be supporting the show.
So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, tap into the Truth Frequency every Saturday at 10 o'clock Central on Oracle Broadcasting, truthfrequencyradio.com. I'll make my final stand. Yeah, that's what they call me.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Intel Hub Radio Show. And tonight we're joined with our contributor, Mark Passio, as with every Tuesday on the program for the second hour. Tonight's show is a contribution on the usage of the occult symbolism in modern culture. He will be explaining specifically the goddess symbolism tonight, the goddesses. Yeah, that's right, the goddesses. All right, folks, here we go. What on earth is happening? Here we go.
Wait a minute. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome all of the new listeners on Oracle Broadcasting. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Mark Passio, and this segment is called What on Earth is Happening? I'll be here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. as a contributor to the Intel Hub radio show with Bob Tuskin and Shepard, and I want to thank those guys wholeheartedly for inviting me to be a part of this. My show is live every Tuesday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. The first hour is broadcast through my website, whatonearthishappening.com. And then, of course, here at 9 p.m., the second hour will be picked up by Oracle Broadcasting, and we'll basically be looking at topics that focus on the underlying causal factors of what is really occurring in our world and what creates those conditions. That's what this show is ultimately all about. For those of you who may not be familiar with my material, you can check out my website. Lots of videos up there, 48 podcasts from the shows that I have already done. And I hope you guys will follow me and basically learn a thing or two from the website and keep listening here every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. With that having been said, what we were talking about in the last hour, basically for all of the listeners who joined me through my website and the TalkShoe Network, was the usage of subversive symbolism. And this is part of an ongoing series of programs that I've been doing on symbolism, occult symbolism specifically. Now, when we talk about the word occult for the new listeners, what we mean by that simply is hidden. The word occult derives from the Latin. The verb occultare in Latin means to hide or to conceal. When people hear the word occult, they often have a negative connotation of it right off the bat because they have been conditioned into thinking that that word is equivalent to evil and always means evil or negative, and that is not the case. That is what dark occultists want people to think. They want people to think that because if they think that the word occult means evil and associate it with that concept always, they will never look into what teachings and what information and knowledge occult philosophies do actually contain, okay? And in refusing to do so, they will be more easily controlled by those who do understand that information, because what that information ultimately is all about is knowledge of how the human psyche works. It's knowledge of how we work and operate. It's ancient knowledge about the human psyche. That's what the occult is. Now, that having been said, all it is knowledge. Knowledge in and of itself is neither good nor evil. It is simply knowledge. What determines whether it serves us or whether it works against us and ultimately enslaves us is what we do with it. So if we learn this occult information and then share it widely, information that has been occulted in the past, meaning hidden, and we bring it to the light of day, meaning we make it not occult. We decloak it. We unveil it. We bring it forward into the light of day so that it can be seen, understood, and integrated by your average human being. And in doing so, they learn more about their internal makeup, in the internal world of the psyche, of the human psyche, which is what is ultimately creating the seeming external reality that we experience. See, that's what ultimately this is all about. That's why the hidden knowledge that I'm sharing on this program is so important, because it's all about what's going on inside of us ultimately, as we will see going forward in the weeks and months to come on this show. You'll get a better picture of this if you visit my site at whatonearthishappening.com. And again, this show is a tapestry Okay, so we're picking up in the middle of a very complex topic, which we've already explored in depth for many weeks. So new listeners understand that this is a tapestry of information, and it would serve you well to check out the podcasts on my site, which are available for download for free. It's the archive of all of my former shows. And if you start from the beginning there, I know it's a lot of information, you will be caught up with that tapestry of information as I have attempted to present it and lay it out to the listening audience. And in going back and listening to those archives, you'll get a very accurate picture of what we do here on the show and will be doing as we go ahead. So what I want to do right now is jump right back into the discussion of symbolism. And what we were talking about in the previous hour was symbolism related to the goddess and ancient goddess traditions. We had already looked at the symbolism of the illuminated torch, which represented knowledge and wisdom and represented spiritual insight and spiritual vision. And we saw how that was used in conjunction with the Statue of Liberty. We saw how it was used on logos such as Amoco gasoline. We saw how it was subversively used in advertising, like in gasoline logos or in bank logos. We also saw how it was used in movie houses such as Columbia Pictures. And what we did is then shifted gears and started to look into owl symbolism. And that's what we're going to do right after this break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back right here on Oracle Broadcasting. You're listening to What on Earth is Happening.
Only on the Intel Hub Radio Show.
You know the Constitution like the back of your hand. You've read books, listened to podcasts.
Hey, Mark.
Lectures, surfed websites.
Hey, Bob.
And
I don't know if you're planning on taking calls, but if you could just give out the number for the
Absolutely. I got it
for
right
the
here.
Oracle one.
The 866
And
number.
that way, yeah, and that way we don't have the complication of having to give out the long talk show one.
No problem. I will just run with the Oracle for the second hour from now on. With that,
Cool, sounds good, man.
You got it, man.
for 99 cents each when you
Yeah.
put shopping cart.
All right, cool, bro. I'm enjoying it, and I think this is going to be good for both audiences.
Absolutely.
Promote freedom.
This is behind the scenes for the talk show folks. Are there folks in the chat listening to the show?
Yeah, there's a few people in there, not too many. I think there's like 3 people in the talk show chat. So,
That talk show stuff never got hot, did it?
it's a light night there, but some people listen all the time from there, and it is what it
People
is.
around the world
Yeah.
detoxifying, self-healing.
Well, wherever you listen, it's not about where, it's about the quality of information that
Lots
you
of
get.
selling product. Microplant powder. Our microplant powder is rich
All right, well, cool.
and probiotic.
We have about a minute left. Could you hear the music, Ben? Or I was just about to message you. I was looking for your Skype.
Add to your
Yeah, I can hear it when it comes in. It's fairly low, but I can pick up on it.
That's it, not more.
And just know based on the graph
we constantly strive
roughly where it's going to be, right?
Yes.
highest quality and rapid shipping anywhere. And we offer free shipping on orders over $95 in the U.S.
Your next break is at
Or call 908-691.
2950.
908-691-2608.
The next one after that's 44.
An oil can do for you at hempusa.org.
2950 and then 44. Extend your life. We had a good first hour, man. Cassandra Anderson.
My doctor's tried everything.
Oh, yeah?
Had much success.
What was the
Heard about
topic?
extended life. But why not give it a
Talked
try?
about GMO crops and this whole thing with Monsanto making it so that the liability from farmers is totally no longer there. And Taylor Griffin covered it and a few others. Pretty interesting show.
I want you to know extended life works.
Anyways, 30 seconds. Here we go. Coming back. What on earth is happening?
You can. Now is the time to join the growing list of real people benefiting from
Wait for the music to play for a couple seconds before you start talking.
You got 928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Radio X, with your host, Jimmy X.
Sundays at noon on the Oracle Broadcasting Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're listening to What on Earth is Happening right here on the Oracle Broadcasting Network as a part of a contributorship to the Intel Hub radio show every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Before we jump into the topic, which was goddess symbolism, and we were specifically about to look into the symbolism of the owl, I want to give the call-in number for this show. Feel free to call in at any time. There are no taboo topics on What on Earth is Happening. There never have been and never will be. So feel free to fire away any questions or comments, and we'll take it from there. The Oracle call-in line is 866-841-1065. Once again, to call into Oracle Broadcasting on What on Earth is Happening, call the number 866-841-1065. So, in the last hour, we were discussing the symbolism of the owl and how this was related to goddess symbolism as the dark aspect of the goddess in general. What the goddess represented throughout antiquity was care, true care. Okay, it represents compassion. It represents the spiritual insight and understanding of true self. The goddess represented getting in touch with the higher self. It represented living in natural law with other beings around you, because you recognize that as one being suffers, all are suffering. The fundamental unity of all of us makes it a deep spiritual understanding that as there is suffering in any, there is suffering in all. Okay? So that is the essence of true compassion. And this is what the original goddess symbolism in the goddess traditions was meant to represent. This is why they often depicted the goddess as a white dove, a pure white color, okay, in ancient symbolism. The dark aspect of this is about the destruction or waning of care, meaning apathy, meaning those who don't have compassion, okay? The qualities of psychopathy, okay, of basically not feeling, of killing the emotions, all right? And that symbol, the main symbol and the main way that the goddess was used in her dark incarnation was through a depiction of a predatory bird that is not pure or white. As a matter of fact, it is dark, and that is the owl. So this is why the owl has become a symbol of the dark occult. Okay, and I say dark occult meaning those who use this ancient knowledge that is taken from human antiquity and the mystery traditions, okay, and use it in the modern day in a perverted form, okay, to basically usurp natural law rights, wield mind control, and essentially exhibit control over other people through the subversion of their rights, okay? And that is basically the traits. Those are basically the traits of the psychopath. They're the traits of those in whom care has been annihilated, true care, all right? The bird is, the owl as a bird is used as their symbol also because it is a predatory bird who can see its prey in darkness through its superior vision. Okay, this represents knowledge. Again, the saying of the wise owl, who is also the wise old owl, because this knowledge comes from thousands of years ago. It's nothing new. It's actually very ancient. Okay, and the bird also sees from a higher perspective, not from the ground level, but from a perspective of well above where it is getting ready to pounce and prey. Okay? It was brought to my attention during one of the breaks that owls feed upon rabbits, and rabbits traditionally in symbolism have been used to also represent innocence. Okay? And it's also a symbol of fear in some traditions. So dark occultists indeed feed on fear and destroy or prey upon innocence. This is a perfect symbol, as we were talking about in the hour before, for the dark occult in general and the elite of the world, who basically have destroyed their own connection with the true goddess of compassion and wisdom, and instead choose to be completely of this world and revel in the base materialistic instincts and revel in the fact and take pleasure in the fact that all they basically do is pervert true knowledge and use it as a mechanism for selfish control. And that's what the dark occult is, contrasted with positive forms of occultism that are basically attempting to take this knowledge of the psyche and then distribute it widely and freely to people to the extent that it is within our power to do so to those with open minds, and change the fundamental dynamic of this planet into something that much closer resembles how we were truly intended to live here, namely in a spirit of truth, of the vibratory energy of love, and in true human freedom. So with that having been said, let's look deeper into the owl symbolism. We were looking at how this was related to Bohemian Grove, a topic which I'm sure many of the listenership of this network knows a lot about. But we were looking at the Grove symbolism, and we were looking at how they use their phrase, their motto, "Weaving spiders come not here," which is basically the opposite of exactly what the Grove is set up and intended to do, which is to act as a networking point for the elite of the world who come and gather on a yearly basis there in the redwood groves of California outside of San Francisco to basically make policy decisions that they're going to implement coming up in the future months, weeks and months ahead. And I want to direct everyone to my website at whatonearthishappening.com. There, if you click the radio listen page, if you're listening on Oracle, that's fine. You don't have to play anything from the player there. But if you go to the radio listen page by clicking the Listen Live button on the left-hand side of the site, you'll see on that page where I'll put on shows that I discuss something that needs visual representation. I'll put that on the radio listen page for that evening. So if you go to the radio page, you'll see there listed images for tonight's show for March 1st, 2011. And there's a host of images there. If you click a series of them, they will come up as a slideshow that you can click and go through and follow what we're talking about by visually being able to see a representation of some of this symbolism. So if you go to the website, go to the radio listen page, and under owl symbolism, okay, we are looking at image number 4. That's where we left off in the previous hour. Image number 4, the symbol of the owl at the Bohemian Grove, saying, "Weaving spiders come not here." And here we see the owl connected with the moon. Okay, the moon is right behind the owl. Of course, the owl is a nocturnal bird when it does its best hunting. And again, the goddess was connected with the moon as well. This is the dark incarnation of goddess symbolism. And how they use it at the Bohemian Grove we'll start to see in images 5 through 8. Okay? In images 5 through 8, we see depictions of the owl at Bohemian Grove. The first 2 images, 5 and 6, show a ritual setting. And I hear the intro music for this next break, so we'll take a break right there, and we'll jump back into imagery from the Bohemian Grove, specifically owl symbolism. And we come right back after these messages. I'm your host, Mark Passio. You're listening to What on Earth is Happening on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. Be right back, folks.
Intel Hub Radio Show.
You are listening to the Oracle Broadcasting Network, the home of cutting-edge talk radio.
We all know that Berkey water purification systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 5 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $209, and the Berkey Guy will include 3 Sport Berkey water bottles and ship everything to you free of charge. That's right, 3 Sport Berkey water bottles and free shipping. An $87 value, yours free. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at GoBerkey.com. That's GoBerkey.com today. The Oracle Broadcasting Radio Network is on a mission to bring you the best in cutting-edge talk radio. Oracle Broadcasting is a true beacon of free speech, uncensored news, and relevant information that depends on the support of listeners just like you. You can help us expand our reach and inform the masses. Promote the network by clicking the Socialize link on the left-hand side of the OracleBroadcasting.com website. Using the simple tools provided, it is easy to spread the word about Oracle Broadcasting on social networking websites, blogs, news feeds, and many other ways with just one click. You can also help by becoming an Oracle Broadcasting member today. For just $5 a month, you get access to the member stream. It allows you to listen to all of the great shows from Oracle Broadcasting in 128K stereo CD audio quality. To find out more, go to oraclebroadcasting.com. And thank you for listening to the Oracle Broadcasting Radio Network. Amazon.com has become a leader in online retail. It is a place where people can find and discover virtually anything they want to buy. Amazon offers thousands of products, including
books, movies, and music,
full range of electronics,
computer and office,
sports and outdoors,
dry, storable, and organic foods,
health and wellness,
survival and tactical gear,
home and garden, and much more.
Amazon not only offers over 10,000 online products, but also operates retail websites and offers programs that enable you to sell your products online.
By making your purchases through Amazon.oraclebroadcasting.com, a portion of each purchase goes to the Oracle Broadcasting Network.
Find great prices on hard-to-find items and help support Oracle Broadcasting at the same time. That website again is Amazon.oraclebroadcasting.com.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to What on Earth is Happening right here on Oracle Broadcasting. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. We were talking about the symbolism of the owl as dark goddess symbolism. And before the break, we were getting into how the owl is ritualistically used in Bohemian Grove, the retreat of one of the retreats of the elite in California, just north of San Francisco. In image number 5 on the section on owl symbolism on my website on the radio listen page, you'll see a depiction of the large owl at Bohemian Grove. This is like a 30-foot tall owl that is set up as an altar, and what it represents is this dark incarnation of the goddess. And this also represents something that goes back to ancient rituals from Carthage and the ancient Canaanite rituals that are connected with human sacrifice. What this represents is, what this ritual is actually called is the cremation of care. And as we were talking about, the goddess represents true care in different traditions, goddess traditions going back into the ancient human past and human antiquity. The goddess represents the spiritual qualities within us, the understanding of our true nature, not as physical beings, but as spiritual beings having human experience. And it's an aspect of compassion. the dark occultists always want to twist and pervert that and then basically destroy that quality within an individual. Therefore, what they want to do is immolate compassion. They want to burn away someone's compassion or their connection to their emotional compass for true direction, for moral direction in life. That's what our emotions enable us to do. That's why those without a connection to emotions basically either are actual psychopaths without any actual ability to feel emotion. There's some high estimates of how many people in the human species actually do not have the capacity to empathize or to feel emotions and don't have a conscience. The estimates are as high as 4%, which is an extraordinarily high number if you look at it in terms of that would be 1 in every 25 people you come across. Some more conservative estimates place it at around 1.5 to 2%. Whatever that number happens to be, you can be assured there is a segment of people that actually are born without this capacity, without this normal range of human emotions, and then other people can actually immolate their care and destroy it during their life while living, even though they once did have the capacity to feel it. So these are people who aren't born psychopaths, but they can become psychopathic in nature based on the conditions of their life and how they choose to react and respond to those conditions and who they choose to listen to, what they choose to value, etc., so forth. And this is what this ritual is all ultimately about. It is about immolating the inner child. It's about burning away true care. It's symbolic. This is an absolution ritual or a ritual of forgiveness for these dark occultists. They are basically saying, we are going to act as God and absolve ourselves of all the wrongdoing that we will do during the course of the year when we come together to perform this rite. This is an ancient absolution ritual or ritual of self-forgiveness. That's what this is. And again, for some people who don't know me or my work, I was involved in the dark occult in a personal, direct experience, direct one-on-one experience. I was involved in dark occult orders in my past for years of my life. I went down into a very deep, dark path, the left-hand path, as they call it in the occult. And I gathered with and exchanged ideas with very psychopathic individuals because I was quite psychopathic in those days, in my youth. And I basically came to a catharsis in spirit and had to face all of the dark, vile aspects of my personality. It came to a point in my life where my attitudes and behaviors brought me to the brink of death. And if there were two ways to go, as I relate it to people when I talk about this, I could have either wallowed in all of that, those vile aspects of what is not true self, all of the lower qualities of consciousness that are not about who we really ultimately are, and it's all about identification with the physical and the material, okay? I could have stayed in that worldly identification, which was making me a sick, a horrific human being, and I would have died, okay? I wouldn't have progressed forward in consciousness in this lifetime. Or I had another direction to go, and that was up from that point, which was about as low as you can get, okay, as low as you can go as far as consciousness goes. And I chose the latter direction, and I chose the ladder direction, okay, for as a pun on words, pun intended, okay. I chose to climb that ladder to a higher level of spiritual understanding and a higher spiritual perspective, and that's what helped me to reverse the direction of my life and reacquire the care that I had basically burned away through my dealings with dark occultism and the people involved in it, and saw the true light of compassion and reason and true understanding. So that's what this ritual is about, this cremation of care ritual, where they immolate a facsimile of a baby, basically. They make an effigy, okay? They make a representation of a child, and then they float it out onto the water because, again, the goddess is the goddess of waters, okay? It's about birth, okay? It's about innocence that they're murdering, okay? So this is what this child represents. It's the inner child within us all. And they float it onto this, out on the lake there in front of the owl, and then they light it on fire. Okay? It's the immolation or the cremation of care. That's what it is known as, the cremation of care. And that is exactly what it's doing. It is destroying the essence of care. It's named very appropriately. It's not an innocent play on words or an innocent pun or an innocent psychodrama. That's not what this is about. This is an absolution ritual for the members who are really involved in murder and genocide and depraved sexuality, often pedophilia, you name it. It goes on there, okay? And they're absolving themselves of their sin by saying we are burning away care, and that absolves us. You know, we don't need to face the repercussions of our actions within natural law because we're the elite. We're basically God here, and you know, we're absolving ourselves of our own sins. Imagine this hubris of these psychopathic occultists that takes place in this redwood grove. Okay, so you see some images of this ritual performed out in front of a lake, and the stone owl that it is done in front of, representing the dark incarnation of the goddess principle, which is basically black care. It is dark care. And yes, there is such a thing, okay? Because if you don't think that these occultists that basically run the game on this planet, if you don't think that they have a variation of care, you're kidding yourself. They wouldn't get up and do the evil that they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop, without a breath, without a respite, without a break, okay? If they didn't care about what they're doing. Their care may be dark indeed. It may be vile. It may be pure evil. But they have a form of care. And let me tell you something. I've said it on this show in the past, and it's not a very popular opinion or a popular approach. This is why they're so successful at what they do. The bulk of humanity, who basically underneath their apathy may have a good essence, you know, an actual desire underneath to do good, but if you don't care enough to actually put that into action, to put what you know into action or what you feel into action, you're accomplishing nothing. These people say what they're going to do. They hold an intention in their mind. They care enough about it to get it done, and then they actually work to do it. They have the combination of intelligence, dark care, and willpower. And putting those three together, dark occultists such as meet at the Bohemian Grove yearly, and who are the elitists of the world, the so-called elite. I mean, I should use the word so-called because they're the elite of exactly nothing, in my estimation. Okay, they're not my elite. They consider themselves the elite, okay? I think people should not even call them that. I say the so-called elite. But they have a form of care, and this makes them a non-dual being. As they think, so they feel, and so they act. That's why they're so successful, and that's why up to this point they've been kicking our rear ends. Hear the intro music. We'll be right back after these messages, folks. Stay with us.
Every day you hear the news. As an American citizen, I'm sure you're concerned. You may even feel like you have no control. Of course, you can't control things like natural disasters or the real estate meltdown, but these days a number of Americans are returning to the practice of being self-reliant by keeping food and water in reserve. That's why you need Be Food Ready.
Awesome show, Mark.
Ready.com has
Thanks, Bob.
Last segment, buddy.
You got it, man.
Hey, and when you do the intros and outros, if you could say you're listening to What on Earth is Happening on the Intel Hub radio show, broadcasting live at Oracle Broadcasting.
No problem, man. You got it.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit cleaner for the audience, so they don't get confused.
You got it. So they know it's a continuation of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And then I'll come in at the last few moments of the show.
Got it.
Thanks, man. Great show.
how you can try 6 meals for free. Log on to BeFoodReady.com.
Hey, this is Jack Blood, host of Deadline Live. For years now, I have been cheating the multinational pharma cartels and have avoided expensive doctor bills by taking Enerfood products every day. These are the products that the powers that be do not want you to know about, and with Codex Alimentarius legislation are actively trying to ban. Why? Because if you take Enerfood coconut milk powder and switch to all organic NutriCafe coffee and Cocoa Mojo, you won't need them. Go to enerfood.com today to learn more about how a daily inexpensive intake of nature's superfood will increase your immune system by flushing out toxins, and how this will increase your energy, stamina, and focus. You know, you can't take on the New World Order from your couch. enerfood.com or give them a call today. 866-762-9238. 866-762-9238. Tell them Jack Blood sent you.
A wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and your family. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Property, a few years ago. In fact, Morales called his work a Naya prophecy. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple steps you can take to protect yourself. You can find the video at www.apeofamerica10.com. Although this video may be offensive to some audiences, it's worth checking out. Again, that's www.apeofamerica10.com.
This is Jack Blood, your radio gun. You're listening to Oracle Broadcasting Network, the home of tyranny-smashing, cutting-edge talk radio.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back on What on Earth is Happening as part of the Intel Hub radio show here Tuesday night on Oracle Broadcasting. Before the break, we were talking about Bohemian Grove. On my website, in the owl symbolism section on the radio listen page, I had directed people's attention to images 5 through 8, which were depictions of the owl at Bohemian Grove. And I'll probably post some supplemental information about Bohemian Grove on the podcast page when this podcast goes into the archive on my website in the podcast section, and I'll maybe post some photos of what some of the activity at the Grove looks like, and maybe post some pages with some membership individuals that actually participate in the rituals that take part at Bohemian Grove. So just to briefly recap what images 5 through 8 were about. In image 5, you saw the owl illuminated with a fire. In image 6, you see the lake that it's juxtaposed upon, representing the principle of correspondence, or as above, so below. In image number 7, this is an older photo of this variant of the owl, probably from the middle part of the 20th century. And then earlier in the 20th century, we see an older incarnation of the owl there depicted at Bohemian Grove. So in image number 8. So let's move forward from Bohemian Grove symbolism specifically to talk about some ways that the owl is used in symbolism that surrounds us in our culture. In image number 9, we see the owl depicted on the $1 bill. This is much is often made of this. Basically, it's hiding behind a shield represented by the number 1 there, okay? And this is a nod to the unity that I was talking about before, that dark occultists share with each other. They are the money masters. They're who they consider the elite of the world and the illuminated of the world, even though they're really no such thing. But they're putting their symbolism there in plain sight. This is the adage of hidden hidden in plain sight. The dark occultists like to put their symbolism in places where people would see it but not easily recognize it or understand what it is. Therefore, their attention is directed upon it, and it goes into their subconscious mind, but it is never really brought to the surface at the conscious level. And they basically get off on that. They love that. They love that they can throw things right in your face and you won't see it. It's a form of occult mockery, okay? And we'll see other ways that they use that. In image number 10, you see the Mazda emblem, Mazda cars, okay? And this is astrotheological symbolism here, and specifically, you can easily see that's an owl's face. I mean, if you can't see that, I don't really know how to make it any clearer. Just look at the Mazda symbol. You're looking at an owl right into the face of the owl. Just look at the white space as the head, and these are the eye crests of the owl with the beak and everything, okay? This is astrotheological symbolism because Ahura Mazda is sun solar cult god myth tradition. That's what it is. It's a similar tradition that we talked about in the solar cult astrotheological worship that we have already covered on this show in the past when we talked about religion as astrotheology. So Ahura Mazda, just another variant of the same solar cult myth god. Okay, the same basic variation on this, and here that is depicted. The name is depicted in conjunction with this owl symbolism. Image number 11 and 12 shows the Frost Bank building in Austin, Texas. And if you look at that Frost Bank building, a center of commerce in the city of Austin, you will see how it clearly is representative of an owl with the eyes and the crest above the head. And you have to look at it from the side of the building, from the corner of the building, I'm sorry. If you look at it from the side, you wouldn't be seeing it, but once you look at it from the corner, from an angle view, you can see how this is clearly the face of an owl, especially when it's lit up at night, as you see there in image number 12. You can see that pretty clearly. Right here in Philadelphia, in the city where I'm from, there's a place called Commerce Square in Center City, Philadelphia. Of course, the square is also one of the favored symbolism of the dark occult. We'll look at that when we look at Freemasonic symbolism in the coming weeks here on this program. But if you look at the image number 13 on the website under owl symbolism, you'll see two buildings, and they have the ears, the pointed ears, like an owl, okay? And if you actually find, this image doesn't show it very well, but if you look at these buildings, there are wings down positioned at the side, like an owl holds its wings at its side. That's what those small juts that come out off to the side of the building. If you look at an angle that shows these head on, you will see that these are on both sides of these buildings, and they're down at the sides just like wings. Both of these buildings are basically symbolic, rudimentary owls. And they're connected with elitism because this is a center of commerce. It's called Commerce Square. All of the banking institutions, specifically the ones that are instrumental to this city, have offices in Commerce Square in Philadelphia's Center City. So they use it in architecture because basically this is the representation of not caring about anybody but yourself, doing anything for money, doing anything for greed and power and influence and control. That's what the dark goddess symbolism is all about. What they're doing in Washington, D.C. with this symbolism, the center of the government of the United States, in images 14 through 16, you'll see this in the owl section of symbolism. And we'll probably stop after these three images, and we'll look at dove symbolism and sacrifice symbolism next week on the show. We see that the owl is positioned in the District of Columbia, okay, Kalum, the dove. We talked about that before. We'll look at that, the symbolism of the dove next week. But Columbia is what the capital was named after. This is another variant of the goddess, specifically the goddess as connected with the dove, because Kaloum in French means dove, okay? And the Congress building is supposed to be about the coming together of the left and right brain hemispheres. It's supposed to be about helping to lead through example of balance. Congress is another word for sexual union. Okay? It means bringing the masculine together with the feminine, or the left brain together with the right brain. It's another way of saying the chemical wedding. Okay? Or as we have seen previous on this show, the balance of the brain hemispheres and the opening of the third eye, or the pineal gland, the all-seeing eye. What they're doing here is symbolically depicting this at the top of a 13-leveled pyramid, which the owl here is sitting atop. And if you can't see that that's an owl in image number 14, just move on to image number 15, and I actually highlight in red the roads. They actually flow around the Capitol building. And if you can't see that that's absolutely pointed, deliberate symbolism, that they are surrounding the light incarnation of the goddess, the dome, the sacred feminine breast dome, that is topped by what is supposed to be the goddess representing freedom, or Columbia, of which the name Washington, D.C. is named after the District of Columbia. They are putting it into the belly of the dark variant of the goddess, which is dark care. And
well,
indeed, that
Mark, I'm looking at the photo right now.
Yes, Bob.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say I'm at the website whatonearthishappening.com. If you missed any of tonight's show, you can find the archive there, and at our website, the intelhubradio.com. Thanks so much, Mark, for another fascinating look at the occult and the symbolism that's right in front of our face.
Hidden in plain sight, right there for all to see, but they're mocking you, basically saying, even if you did see it, you wouldn't comprehend it.
That's right. All right, folks, every Tuesday, second hour of the show, Mark Passio, What on Earth is Happening? I'm Bob Tuskin. On behalf of Shepard and Bellis, our executive producer, Alex Thomas, and the entire Oracle Broadcasting family, I thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. Stay tuned to Lee Rogers coming up, Live Free or Die, next on Oracle Broadcasting. And I really enjoyed his take on Alex Jones last night in the Charlie Sheen View scandal. That was an absolutely hard-hitting show. If you missed it, check that out on the archives. And we'll see you tomorrow night with another great show, Paul Divergent, and coming up this week still, Mike Murphy. The list goes on. All of our guests and past guests are at our website, theintelhubradio.com.